You're inside the press box. Christian FM Sports presents Inside the Press Box, where we discuss all sports from our favorite high school team to college and pro. Here's your host, Paul Tipton and Gary Paris.
Hey, Vero Nation. Your Fighting Indians are 3-0 after a win on Friday night in a little soggy stadium called the Citrus Bowl at Billy Living's Field. 62-0, the final score, as Port St. Lucie, the Jaguars, coming in as a 2-0 undefeated program at the time, but they faced a buzzsaw known as the Fighting Indians. I'm Paul Tipton along with Gary Paris, and Gary, you were off on your own assignment on Friday. UCF, they lost that game against Louisville. I really thought that was a game that they could win and maybe should have won. But nonetheless, it was a loss, and so you weren't able to be there on Friday night with us and watch the action that took place there in the I'm going to say the first 30 minutes.
Well, it's really funny you say that. I had my phone as we're broadcasting the game with Louisville. I got my phone right in front of me, and my wife, Bobby, is texting me the scores, and and she's naturally at her, she's with her mother and her sister and stuff like that. They're listening and watching the game on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And so I get this text, and it goes up, Vero's up. And then I don't get a text for a little bit. So we're in a commercial break. I text back. I said, "What is the score?" "Oh, I'm sorry, 28-0.
What? Yeah.
And then the next I get is at halftime, 48 to nothing.
48 to nothing.
48 to nothing. I said, "Boy, thanks for keeping me."
Yeah, right? No kidding. Wow.
And so I said, "Wow, boy, Vero must have really." That first half, I'm thinking, man, what a great first half, because there's no running clock in that first half. Vero must have scored on every possession they had the ball. I was thinking that was. Well,
by the end of the night, Gary, it was all but one possession.
That's it.
That's it.
All right, let me ask you this, Paul. You were there. You broadcasted it, okay? The very first series they chose to take the opening kickoff.
Yeah.
And on that very first series, what gave you an idea that Vero was really, really going to win? Was there anything in that first series that told you or made you think that Vero was going to have a 62-0?
Well, I don't know if you can ever predict a 62-0 score that quickly, but when we saw the first snap by Port St. Lucie, and it was a high snap, went over the quarterback's head, he goes back, drops on it. We kind of thought, okay, there was a weather delay. You're playing in front of a big crowd. You're nervous. Got it. Maybe wet field. Okay. Then it happened on the second down. And then the third down. And Matt, who was working with me in the booth, we kind of looked at each other and were like going, okay. You have one of those looks of like, what in the world's going on here? And I even said on the air, I'm like, hopefully they won't do this on fourth down, because if they do this on fourth down, that is going to be a safety, because it's going to go out of the back of the end zone at this point. And you just kind of like sensed right away that maybe, I don't know if it was nerves or whatever it was, but you just could sense that right away that like Port St. Lucie was not in a state of mind to play a football game. I don't know what's happened, but it just was like from the word go, Gary, you could just see it. You go, this is going to get bad or ugly really quick.
And it's a team that came in 2-0.
Yeah.
A team that was 7-3.
They were 7-3 a year ago.
And they were in the playoff.
Won their district titles, got in the playoffs. Something they hadn't done. I don't want to say it maybe the first time in the school's history, but it's pretty close to that. Certainly within the last probably 10 to 15 years, it's the first time that they've been able to accomplish that feat. So they're, you see them, they're 2-0 on the start for this year, and you're thinking, wow, man, Coach Dent has done a great job there. These guys are now buying into becoming a program, not just a one-hit wonder. But I just think, honestly, Gary, maybe it's just one of those things that, maybe they came in flat. Maybe the weather delay, I don't know. And I really want to give credit to Vero Beach, because Vero is playing spectacular ball. Both sides of the ball.
Well, that was going to be my next question to you, is that how good is Vero Beach? I mean, you've won your first 3 games. You've only given up 6 points in those 3 games.
Yeah.
And defensively. So, in your opinion, Vero actually, well, we know they dominated. You scored 62 points, but you did it on all 3 facets of the game again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, you had obviously a lot of scoring going on offense pretty quick. Tyler Aronson, I mean, his numbers are not going to be like stellar. I mean, when you look at his final numbers, I mean, 6 of 7, 144 yards and 4 touchdowns. The 4 touchdown numbers impressive for a half of work, but the rest of it, you kind of go, well, he didn't really do much. He didn't have to.
No, he didn't have to. And again, all 3 facets. Interception.
All 3. Defense had 4 picks on the night. I mean, special teams, Woolard, 85-yard punt return. I mean, it's just everything was clicking for Vero Beach. So to answer your question, how good are we? I don't know. And you're almost afraid to even speculate right now because it's so early in the season. I don't know that we've really played a team that you go, that's our barometer. Here's our measurement that tells us where we are. Maybe that happens in Friday night. I don't know. Westwood's not really playing all that great of football. We'll talk about the Panthers in just a bit. But, you got Miami Palmetto on the horizon. That could be your barometer. I don't know. It's hard.
Well, Paul, one of the things that you and I on our Tuesday night Coach's Corner we have at Caps, we asked Lenny about scheduling. How hard is it to schedule? How hard is it to get teams to want to play? And he said the most difficult, one of some of the hardest problems he has, he wants to get a lot of home games.
Sure.
He wants our fans to we do a good job. We fill our side of the stadium. The home side is filled up, and it is sold. Yeah. Most time, it's almost sold out. The revenue from that is important. So to get teams to come to play in Vero, a lot of times it's an art, and not that you choose bad teams.
No,
it's you really would like to play good teams. And when Billy calls up St. Thomas Aquinas or
Billy or Lenny?
I mean Lenny. Excuse me. I'm going back to
boy. That's a step back in time.
Step back in time. I've done that to Lenny a couple of times because I see them as the 2 best coaches that I've ever seen at Vero Beach High School. So Lenny will take and go back, and he'll call St. Thomas Aquinas, or he'll call when Dwyer was in the prime, or when a team down in the Palm Beach counties or Orlando are in their prime. And he'll ask them, hey, do you guys want to play? He said, yeah, if you come to our place. Well, no, I'd like for you to come to ours. How about a home and home?
Yeah.
And they'll say no.
Well, and usually, and you're right, and usually a lot of times, Gary, it goes in 2-year cycles. So he wants to do 2-year agreements, and and Coach Jay's willing to do, what we refer to as a home and home. So 1 year they come to our place, 1 year we go to their place. So like you think back a couple of years ago, all right, we had Vieira. Vieira's good program, good team. They came to our place and we played. Last year we tried to go to their place. It got rained out, lightened out. We ended up canceling the game. We couldn't get it rescheduled. So we obviously didn't get them back on the schedule for this year for a 2-year cycle. You think about Osceola. There's a team that we've played, we've had on the schedule periodically. It's a team that we would most likely see in a playoff scenario. But, that's another one of those things. Every now and then we get them on the schedule. We can't consistently get them on the schedule.
Well, look at this year with Osceola. Treasure Coast played Osceola. Was it last week or this week? Are they playing them?
No, they played Osceola the first week of the season.
First week of the season. There you go. But they had to travel to Osceola.
Right.
If you look at Treasure Coast's schedule, they got one of the hardest schedules in the country, and there's a reason why that is, and especially in the state of Florida. They have to travel to play they're playing Tampa Jesuit, who's a top-ranked team in the state of Florida. Yep. They're playing Chaminade Madonna. That's second or third in the state of Florida now.
Yep.
And they just played Osceola, their opening game. And they got Seminole this week.
No, they've already played Seminole.
Excuse me. They lost to Seminole. They got Martin County this week, I think, and back home.
Yes. Yep.
And that's their first local game they've got. Yeah. But they had to travel all over the state. And what Lenny wants to do with the schedule, he would like to play some hard teams in the beginning. A couple years ago, we went to Oscar Smith all the way to Virginia.
We did.
To play the runner-up in the state championship that year, and they were predicted to be there again this year. We went up there to play them. It's not that we're afraid. We played Venice a few years back. We traveled over to Venice early in the year and played that. It's not that we're afraid to play teams early. It's just hard to book teams on what you'd like to have at home and home, or if you can get a home game.
Right.
And then you have to, your schedule, you lay it out. He said how difficult it is to want to get teams to come here or what would be opening. You try to keep your financial situation. Yeah. Most schools will play Vero. Like, for example, we have we played St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie. Well, they share a stadium. Yep. They have their own stadium.
Westwood and Fort Pierce Central share a stadium. Then you got like Treasure Coast and
Centennial share a stadium. So they work your open dates and all. My point I'm trying to make is it's not easy to schedule people.
No, it's not.
I've had people come up to me and says, when are you guys going to play somebody tough? Well, let me just say this to you, start off the year, okay? When we opened up the season, and we're playing, every opponent we played was undefeated then. Yeah. Okay, they were the opening game. They were undefeated.
Yeah.
We go out and we beat them. Okay, so now they got a loss. Well, the next team we play, we played St. Lucie, Port St. Lucie, our
second week. We played Palm Beach Gardens.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking. I'm trying to not get the exhibition game. Boca. I'm trying to get that out of my mind.
Yeah, we got to give them a little bit of grace between UCF, varsity of Vero Beach, and JV and freshman of Vero Beach. He's got so many games on his mind. He's a little confused. Well, so it's okay.
There's so many. Like, you're right. But let's say we got to play. They're undefeated. All right, we're playing an opponent. Last week was undefeated. They were 2-0.
Yeah.
Now we're playing an opponent this week, Westwood. That's 2-0.
Yeah.
And we have a common opponent. They beat South Fork. So now, how good is Westwood going to be? We don't know, but we know that in the schedule, I know people keep saying, why don't we play more? We get some hard teams. Well, listen, we do have some hard teams. We got Miami Palmetto, who beat us in the third round a couple years ago in Vero Beach. We got them. We got Centennial, who's having a fantastic year. Yep. We've got Treasure Coast coming up that we already know that how tough they are.
Yep.
And we even have Fort Pierce Central, who is a much better team than they were in the last few years. So the schedule it's not loaded up front only because of the way the schedule came through and the way you had to put it together to get teams to play us. Now, they say, I had a guy say, look at Treasure Coast. Look at the schedule they got. They're playing all the tough teams across the state of Florida. The problem is nobody wants to play them. Not because of their record so much as they got a wing tee.
Yep.
Nobody knows how to defend a wing. Nobody runs the wing tee in the state of Florida but a couple teams.
Or that single wing.
Or single wing, yeah. And it's a tough team to get ready for 1 week. You got 1 week to play that team, and then you don't see it again.
Yep.
And it's pretty hard sometimes to put. And so a lot of teams say we don't need to play them.
Right, and your location matters. If you go back to your number one rule about real estate: location, location, location. Same thing for Treasure Coast. Treasure Coast is in an area where they don't have a lot of teams to try to get on the schedule. Palm Beach County teams are, because of budget restrictions and everything else, they're limited on their traveling. So that makes it a little challenging. So what Treasure Coast has had to do is go look other places. So like you think like, okay, Apopka, who runs the same type of offense, well, they're in an area where for them to travel, 40 minutes somewhere, they can find, probably 5, 6, 7 teams.
And their district opponents, they probably got 6 or 7 teams in that district.
Correct. So that changes everything for them. So you go, well, there's other teams that run that offense. True, but where they're located, geographically speaking, matters. So it makes it easier for them to get teams on their schedule versus somebody like Treasure Coast. And I'm not trying to be an apologist for Treasure Coast, but here's the bottom line. And a lot of, I don't know if fans really want to know this or even care about this, but what a lot of this ends up being about is how much, I don't want to say this is the main focus because it's really not, but revenue does matter for the school. And, when you turn on those lights and you've got, people that take care of the field, you got security, all that stuff has to be paid for. And so, and ultimately, we're talking about not just about the football program, we're talking about the athletic department, because I would say, and I might be conservative on this figure, I would say at least 85% of the athletic budget is coming from what football produces in the fall.
I would say you're right. You're pretty close. I think Lenny has said before that, we really, all of our other athletic programs, we get a big jump and a big boost because of football.
Right.
And that's why we can have so many programs and have some good quality programs out there.
So my point is, while Vero Beach could go put a bunch of road games on the schedule and go play a St. Thomas or a Venice or an Apopka or a Tampa or whatever, what does that do for the overall budget for the school? It really reduces the revenue that comes in.
Well, he gets a lot of calls throughout the year, like if you guys got an open date on this day, if you've got look at your schedule for the future. Teams have called Billy, and he has to. Lenny again. There I go. Golly, sorry about that, Lenny. When Lenny looks at, they say, Lenny, we want to play you, but here's the day we'd like to play you. And he'll look on his, all I can do is put it on my schedule and let me see what happens. Because you've got to leave a certain number of certain dates for your district. Mm-hmm. And usually the district is the end of your last half of the season. You start playing your district games.
So that's, and for us, it's 4 games right now.
It's 4 games. Yeah. Exactly right. And and we'll start that. We have Palmetto next week.
Yep.
And then after that, we start the...
right. We start looking at Centennial. We start looking at Fort Pierce Central. We look at Martin County, and then we're going to finish the season with Treasure Coast.
Exactly right. And then we have the open date before the playoffs. So it's hard scheduling, folks. Let me just put it this way. To those that are critics out there that say that we don't play a tough schedule to open up with, it's not that we haven't tried or we can't. We work hard. A lot of people just don't want to come. They want you to come to them.
Yeah.
And we've done that in the past.
Yeah. Well, and again, like we were talking earlier about, when you try to go out and you try to work deals with some of these programs, I'll give you a perfect example. So like you talked about a couple of years ago, we went to Venice and we played them. I think that was the season opener.
Yes.
And, that was the, the rain delay, lightning delay game that we finally got in. Well, that was a 2-year deal. And guess what? Next year, there was some issue, and they asked to get out of that deal. So they never came to Vero Beach.
No.
When you're trying to put good teams on the schedule and work these 2-year agreements to where you can do a home and home situation, you're hoping that those particular schools will honor their side of the agreement. And when they don't, well, what's the alternative?
Well, you take last year, for example, we had the game with Vieira. We wanted to reschedule that game as quick and fast as we could, willing to play on a Saturday. Well, that didn't work out well for them. We willing to play on a Monday. No, they had a big district game that week, and they didn't want to play on a Monday and turn around and play on a district game. So we ended up having to cancel it, and we picked up North Marion,
right?
Which
we traveled to, by the way.
Which we traveled up there to play them because the same boat for them, and they were willing to play us. And we lost another game, and we went over and played. Was it Bartow or?
Bartow
came to us because of the same situation of a canceled game.
Yep. And even still, in that course of that year, we lost. We had John Carroll at home. That got rained out.
Yeah.
And never got that game in. And then we were supposed to play the team from Jacksonville, Rains. And
that was the last game of the year.
They basically decided not to even make the trip because they were worried about there was going to be a huge front coming through and it was going to produce a lot of rain and stuff. And they were like, you know what? we're just not even going to bother. So there's 2 games that we lost.
Exactly.
Right off the.
So it's tough. So you want to play as close to games as you can get because you can easily reschedule some of these and to get your 10-game season in for Vero Beach. Okay, enough about all that.
We got that all out. You know. All right, we both of us can jump down off the soapbox here and get set for next week or this coming Friday. Westwood. Now, you talked about Westwood's 2-0. They were supposed to play last week, but their game got canceled. They were going to play Blanche Ely, and that game got canceled because there was weather delays, and they just said, you know what, we're just going to call it a night, and just didn't play. Yeah,
they're out of Fort Lauderdale area, and the weather all around was we all went through it. I mean, UCF, we were afraid we were going to get another major delay, but the front stayed on the east side. It went to the East Coast, and you could see all the way across the stadium. You could see where Cocoa and all those cities over there were getting lightning, and there was tons of rain on the East Coast. Yeah. But it was great in Orlando, so I'm not surprised that more games didn't cancel.
Yeah, so, basically you had Westwood basically got a bye week out of it. And so they've been able to basically just, while they were preparing for an opponent and that game ended up not happening, they were absolutely able to stay healthy, number one. Number two, now their total attention has been on Vero Beach for more than just a week now. So, you never know what the Panthers are going to bring to the stadium when they get there on Friday.
Well, the only common opponent we've all faced so far, they're 2-0, as you said, is they played South Fork the week before. Yeah. And they beat them 12-8. So we beat South Fork 56-6. So
when you do score comparisons, what does that mean?
It just lets you know that you scored 56 points, they scored 12, okay? and if you say, okay, use that as a strategy, Vero Beach wins 56-12 because we are a common opponent. Doesn't go that way. They've had a whole week to prepare for Vero Beach now. Yeah. They get an extra week of watching our film and watching us play and then come up with a scheme.
They may have even, I don't know, Gary, they may have even been at the game on Friday night to watch the live performance against Port St. Lucie and just kind of watch some things. I don't know. It's always one of those kind of coin flips. You just don't know. Now, should Vero Beach win the game? I mean, again, if you look at the score comparisons and whatnot, I would say yes.
I'm just going to say, yeah, we're gonna win. In my opinion, I think that Vero's very talented, and nothing against Westwood. Westwood has great talent, but I don't know if they've played anybody like Vero Beach yet. Okay, they haven't had a chance to play Treasure Coast. They haven't had a chance to play. Their only other game was against Royal Palm Beach, and they won that one 36-13. So, are we supposed to win? I would say yes.
Yeah, I would say we'd have to be favored.
Yeah, we'd have to be favored. Yeah, and they're not a bad team, Paul. I was looking at and I watched a little film on them, and they're a dual threat team with their quarterbacks. They love. They got a junior named Todd Jackson. Okay, he likes to his passing. He's 10 for 25. 212 yards in 2 games, and he's got 2 touchdowns. Okay. He's on the run side, though. He's carried the ball 17 times in 2 games. He's got 157 yards of rushing, 9.2 yard average, and he's got 1 touchdown rushing. And then their second quarterback is a freshman. His name is Joseph Weathers. And he's passed the ball 13 times, completed 9 of them for 133 yards, which is 69% of his passes. Okay. He has 2 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 2 interceptions, too. Okay. So they're a run threat game. Their leading rusher, that what I've been able to watch and to look at, is a young man. Let me find him here in my notes. Is Kevin Riles. Riles is a junior. He's carried the ball 18 times in 2 games, 149 yards. He's averaging 8.3 and 1 touchdown. And then, of course, you have Jackson, who's the second leading rusher.
Yeah.
Who was the quarterback.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea offensively what they're like.
Yeah. So, well, we know one thing. Coach Mata, Coach Bethel, Ray Hall, those guys are going to get that defense ready to attack this offense of the Panthers. I mean, you can look at some of the obvious things when you look at those numbers and say, well, they'll probably try to shut down the run and dare them to pass. But who knows? We'll see what they're going to dial up. But, for Vero Beach offensively, it's really just a read and react situation. And we'll see what Coach Jay is going to dial up for these Panthers here on Friday.
Well, and I want to go back to say one thing. Going back to playing our schedule we have already, you know how many young men have gotten a chance to play and get film on because of the games we've had? I mean, last week, every lineman on the offensive side, and there's only like 8 or 9, all of them got to play a lot.
Yeah.
They got to play, I think the starters played 15 plays, and the rest of the guys got 16 plays or so. And but you got to look on defense. You get a chance to look at your different combinations that you put in there that you can look at. I mean, defensively, we've played probably the last few weeks every individual that's dressed out and got film on them.
Yeah. So, Gary, I'm looking at stats from the Port St. Lucie game for Vero Beach. Receivers not named Jacobs or Woolard combined for 7 receptions for roughly about 50, 60 yards of receiving yards there. So that would have been the era of when Jake Whiteley was in there at that time. He went 7 for 7 for 47 yards. Yeah. And then you're in a running clock on the second half. I mean, you scored 2 touchdowns, which we did the second half. Right. It was you playing everybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, Aronson didn't even, he took his helmet off toward the end of the second quarter. And then on the ground game, if your last name was not Rogers, you're talking about Jean, who got 4 carries for 24 yards, and Hillsman got 4 for 25 yards. And then, a couple other guys, Frazier got 3 attempts as well for 8 yards. So, like you said, a lot of guys are getting some opportunities, and they're making the most of it. This young man, Hillsman's a freshman, folks. Yeah. He's a freshman, and he is a dynamic athlete. And he has future. We've talked about Efren White and his athleticism. That guy can play quarterback, literally can play quarterback. I mean, I've watched him throw the ball. He throws a great pass. Mm-hmm. But when you got Aronson out there and Whiteley, so you put him at running back, you put him at wide receiver, you put him at defensive back. He starts at corner, a freshman starting at corner. Yeah. He's 6'3", 150, 60 pounds. He one of the fastest 8th graders around last year in the state of Florida. So you got this talent that's there, and this is what gives you the flexibility. And Hillsman, man, what a future he has too. Just a freshman. Oh yeah. The future is bright for Vero Beach. Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. So, game time is Friday night, 7 p.m. at the Citrus Bowl against Westwood. Our coverage will begin with our countdown to kickoff show beginning at 6 p.m. Hey, thanks for joining us inside the press box. Along with Gary Parrish, I'm Paul Tipton. As always, go Indians.
Thanks for joining us inside the press box. For more, go to ChristianFM.com.